Thanks so much for coming along. My name is Miranda. I'm the founder of Marketing for Health Practitioners, which is basically like a boutique marketing agency specifically created to help practitioners in the really early days of creating their own private practice. So a big component of what we do, and I guess it's not really like a normal marketing agency because we're very much focused on some do it for you services, because some things you always need help with, like building websites, but a lot of it is done together, done with you, and some elements of do it yourself. So a big component is training and education, and basically empowerment, to make sure that in the early days, when you don't have big budgets and lots of people to help you out, that we're creating a marketing plan that is really realistic and practical, and a big chunk of it that you can do yourself until you reach that point in time where you can get some help. So whether that's, some reception help, some non-clinical sort of admin support to help you with some of the basics of marketing. So this presentation is going to be all about really thinking about, if you're in those really early days of growing your practice, what do you need to see your practice start to grow? Being really mindful that it needs to be realistic, mindful of budget, mindful of limited people resources. So really putting the things in place where you can start to see that growth. And then once you see that growth, once you start increasing revenue, then you can start adding different things into the mix. So I thought I'd start this presentation just with a definition of private practice marketing, I guess, so you can get an understanding of where I'm coming from as a healthcare marketer in terms of how I see the role of marketing in this space. So what is the ultimate goal of private practice marketing? So obviously you're in the business of helping people. So marketing's role is to help people get the right help from the right health practitioner in the right time frame, making sure that people and their loved ones get the best care possible, and helping people make good healthcare decisions. So as you know, there's a lot of lack of awareness in some areas of health. There's a lot of information out there. It's not always correct. So that's why education, when we think about private practice marketing, education plays such an important role, because as a practice owner, part of your role is to help people come across the right information. So making sure that you're sending out correct, valuable information to get in front of people, to then educate them and help them understand more about what might be going on for them, what things to look out for, when is the right time to seek help, and then if it is the right time, who should you seek help from? And so that's where marketing in healthcare has a pretty big responsibility to make sure that we're pulling that off. And when we're thinking more about how does it relate to you as a practice owner, it's really about increasing awareness of you and what you do, building your credibility and reputation, increasing your new patients, retaining current ones, and establishing a long-term successful practice. So as a marketing manager in the corporate world, which I was there for a long time, and even now when I'm working directly with practice owners, the thing as a healthcare marketer that keeps you awake at night is actually not new patient appointments. Like this, yes, they're important and you really care about them, but what you care about more is that initial inquiry or interest, because that, as I often say, is really the domino effect of a successful practice. Because when you have that initial inquiry or interest coming through, lots of things. You know that your marketing activities are working. You know that your website traffic is increasing and your website is doing its job in encouraging those website visitors to take the next step. And you're about to see an increase in new patient appointments. So healthcare marketers, we tend to be quite obsessed with, what are daily inquiries, what are weekly inquiries, and making sure we're seeing inquiries, but also quality inquiries coming through and growing consistently month after month. So when we're thinking about if inquiries are the domino effect, this is a model that I created a while ago now, which really is built to enable a private practice to, if you implement all these elements in this model, then you can be pretty sure that you're going to do everything you need to do to see that increase in inquiry or interest, and therefore increase in new patient appointments. So the model is split into 3 main sections. So foundation, so it's the marketing and brand foundations. Promotion, so that's where we're thinking about marketing activities, and then processes. So the processes and systems that sit around the foundations and the promotional activities. So when we're thinking about foundations, and this presentation will really be about delving into these areas in more detail, but I'll just take you through the model briefly, just to help you have an understanding of how it all works together. So when we're thinking about marketing and brand foundations, we're thinking about what is our vision, mission, and goals. So where are we going? What is our ultimate goal in terms of what do we want our practice to look like in, say, 12 months time, 5 months time? And what is our vision? Like, what is our ideal future? What are we trying to do as a practice owner? And when we're thinking about mission in relation to vision, mission is really what you're doing in your own world, in your own practice, to help take positive steps towards that vision. Market position, we want to think about what we want to be known for in the marketplace, because that really helps guide other things in terms of who your ideal patients are, your messaging, what communication channels you should be in. We want to think about brand associations. So that's, brand associations are everything that someone thinks and feels about you. Your tagline and key messages. So when you're talking about what you do, what are you going to say that's really going to resonate with your ideal patients and referrers and encourage them to take that next step? And then we want to take all those things and we want to visually execute that into a look and feel. You know, your logo, your colors, what does your website look like? What does your brochures look like? And then obviously a key part of foundation work is your website and search engine optimization. So your website has a really important job to do because its job is to give people the confidence to take that next step. And then SEO is obviously really important because there's no point having an amazing website if people simply just can't find it. And why are these things important? Because it enables you to create effective promotional activities. Because by doing all this brand and foundation work, you know who your ideal patients are, where do they live in terms of what communication channels are right for them, what messaging is going to resonate with them the most, what look and feel is going to be more aligned with who you are in the marketplace and who your patients and referrers are, which is going to increase the chance of you getting more website visitors, but also quality website visitors, because we don't want people visiting your site or making inquiries just for the fun of it. We want to make sure those people visiting your website and making an inquiry are what we call in marketing and sales is quality leads. So people who potentially need your help. So then when we're moving over to the promotions column, so promotions are really the marketing activities. So what activities are we going to do to get you in front of your ideal patients and referrers? So, I mean, there are lots of different marketing activities you can do in the health space, but obviously we need to pick ones that are suitable when you're in those early days. And suitable means often it comes down to budget, but what is going to allow you to effectively and as cost effectively as possible get you in front of those prospective patients and referrers. So often the two main marketing activities to do that when we're thinking of prospective patients are Google Ads and Facebook ads. Both play a slightly different role. And I'll talk about that more later on. Obviously, social media plays an important role, but there's different social media platforms. So we need to think about, based on the foundation work, which platforms are going to be best for your ideal patients and referrers. Relationship and direct marketing, and that predominantly is talking about your referrers. So how can we, which is, as you know, it's very difficult to get in front of potential referrers. There's no easy way to do it. But I'll talk about some things that we're trying these days, which are a little bit different to old school sort of visiting practices, which no one likes. And then obviously content. So creating content, obviously, as no doubt you've heard, plays a really important role, because you need content to obviously put in your marketing channels, to put on your website. So that content can really make or break your marketing or promotional activities or your website. And why do we care about these things? Because they enable you to get in front of your ideal prospective patients and referrers and increase your website traffic of quality leads, and therefore increase quality inquiries. So now moving over to process. So when we're thinking about processes that sit around the foundation or promotional components of this model, it's really important to have an inquiry response process in place. So there's no point doing all this foundation work and you've got all your marketing activities sorted and your inquiries are starting to increase and you're just not managing them and getting back to them. So that means that you've obviously got pretty poor customer service. It's going to be less likely that those people are going to move through, because guaranteed, if people are giving you a call or sending you an inquiry online, they're doing it to other practitioners similar to you as well. And sometimes it's simply the first person that gets back to them will get the appointment. And follow-up processes are really important as well. So that's where, if you've got an inquiry coming through, you respond, you don't hear back, then in a week's time, you've flagged that you will follow up. Hey, just checking in, any more questions? And that, you see, even though it's time consuming, definitely if you're doing it yourself, but you see, quite a significant increase in those conversions. So obviously it's important to have inquiry responder training. If it's not you doing it, then you need to make sure that the person is really trained up in terms of following the right process, staying in control of communication, and obviously being super professional, and being across exactly what you want to say to these people. Patient initiatives can be just unique ways to help people interact, so it can be like a free assessment, a free 15-minute chat, something like that on your website, which creates a process to help people move through. And then obviously we want to track and analyze all your marketing activities, because we want to see what is working, what's resulting in more inquiries and more new patient appointments. And why do we care about all these things? So it enables you to capture inquiries, convert inquiries into appointments. And convert is not a very nice word. It's a very salesy word. But when I'm talking about convert inquiries, it's only ever people, you should obviously only ever be encouraging people who truly, genuinely need your help to take the next step and book an appointment. And retention, it enables you to, once you capture those patients, to give them a really great service, so they stick around for as long as they need your help. And then it also allows you to replicate, because by tracking your, because things work differently. Sometimes, a marketing activity work really well in one area of health, in one location, and not so well in the other. So there's always a testing phase initially, because there's lots of components of every marketing activity. So it's about measuring and tracking to see what's working the most, and then you basically replicate or increase the things that are working the most and turn off the things that aren't so much. So, so thinking about the first component, so the marketing brand foundations, I'm just going to step you through some key components of that. So your vision and mission. So your vision and mission underpin everything, every marketing thing that you do. So your vision is really that bigger picture, so that future world you want to see. It's, you know, creative, ambitious, aspirational, inspirational. And I read that I plagiarized this from somewhere. Visions are driven by passion and dreams, and they are reflected through real efforts to create real results. And it also provides a clear sense of purpose. So when you're running a business and when you're putting a marketing plan together, you need to know where you want to go, because the whole plan is built around getting you to where you need to go. So if you don't know where that location is, and yeah, obviously it changes and evolves along the way, but it's hard to measure whether your business or marketing plans are being successful and effective if you're not sure where you want them to take you. And so when we're thinking about your mission is really what you can do in your own world to take steps towards your vision. So it's really around your intended direction and focus for you and your business, what you want to accomplish. And it also serves a really good filter to separate what's important and what is not. So I think, you know, as your business gets busier and busier, and I've, you know, worked with practices, but I also work for not-for-profit organizations as well, and often those organizations that are predominantly volunteer run, like there's so much work, there's so many things that you could be potentially doing, that sometimes you just find you're doing a bad job at a lot of things. So sometimes it's really good to just go like, hold on, let's like regroup, let's look at what our mission and vision is, and let's make sure that what we're spending our time on is the things that are going to help us the most achieve that vision and mission, and put the others, I mean, delete them off the list or just put them further down the list. So here are just a few examples. So for one psychologist, vision is a world where everyone is accepted and embraced for who they are. And you can read those missions there, I won't read them all out. But second psychologist is a world where there is emotional harmony for individuals, couples and families. And her mission is to use a balance between reflection, insight and skills to help individuals, couples and families to understand themselves and each other more, to communicate in ways that are more helpful, and to live a more emotionally harmonious life. So you can see that the vision is the bigger picture, and the mission is what they can do in their own world, in their own practice, to take steps towards that vision. Some more examples here. You've got this on your handout, so I won't read them word for word now. So moving on to your goals. So your goals are really, when we're thinking about marketing goals, where you want to be heading. So I always recommend thinking about, in 12 months time, putting some numbers together. So in 12 months time, how many new patient appointments do you typically want to be seeing? And if you have different services and treatments that you want to grow, then also the number of those different treatments and services that you want to be doing in 12 months time. And then you know, from now until that 12-month point, you know, your marketing plan is focused on achieving these and moving towards these. And over time, you'll also be able to see the data in terms of how many inquiries you need to result in a new patient appointment. So eventually that you need X number of appointments, X number of inquiries to result in X number of new patient appointments. So therefore, your marketing activities need to get you these number of inquiries this week to result in X number of new patient appointments, say in 4 weeks' time. So your position in the market. So your position in the market is really what you want to be known for. So it really gives you a good idea of that space you want to own. So you can't be everything to everyone. And that's a big mistake that you can make in marketing. So just be really specific about what you want to be known for and what space in the market you want to take. So where you sit in comparison to your competitors, that might be your service offering, your approach to patient care, your prices, your treatments, and thinking about this position and thinking about what you want to be known for really assists you in defining your patient and referrer types, your fees, your look and feel, and helps you own a space in your field and become the well-known expert in it. So here's just a few examples of positions. So to be the leading best practice evidence-based eclectic neurodiverse mental health practice in Queensland. In terms of like something a bit different, so a gynecologist and fertility specialist, to be one of Victoria's leading general gynecologists, to be one of Victoria's leading CREI qualified fertility and IVF specialists, to be Victoria's leading child and adolescent gynecologist. So you can see that you can also have like one overarching ideal position in the market, or you can have a few that you're aiming to achieve as well. So brand associations. So brands are one of my favorite topics, and a big component of brand management is what we call brand associations. So your brand is obviously your logo, your look and feel, your colors, but more importantly, it's these brand associations. So it's anything a prospective or current patient or referrer thinks or feel about you is known as a brand association. And every single touch point plays a role in building these associations. So by touch points, we mean things like your website, your brochure, your logo, what their friends said about you, how your practice manager spoke to them, what your waiting room was like. Was it really messy and dirty? Their first appointment with you, their treatment experience and outcome. So the more positive and consistent associations, the more a patient or prospective patient will have confidence that they're making the right decision. So there's been a lot of research in terms of brand associations, and the research over and over again demonstrates that people basically, in marketing, you're wanting to increase someone's propensity to purchase what you're offering. I mean, you obviously can't force people to buy anything, but you want to increase the chance that they choose you over a competing offer. So the more positive and consistent things that they think and feel about you compared to a competitor, then the more likely that they will take that next step and choose you. And with thinking about the opposite end, so inconsistent and negative associations obviously have the opposite effect. So they can cause confusion, they erode your credibility and create doubt that you are the right offer or practitioner for them. So that can be, so you've got amazing website, you've got all these videos on your Facebook page, you come across like highly experienced and expert in what you do, but you also come across really approachable. And so people watching these go, oh, wow, it really feels like if I choose this practitioner, they're going to really genuinely care about me and my well-being and the outcome. I feel really comfortable and safe choosing them. And then they ring your practice to book an appointment and the person answering the phone is disinterested, dismissive. Suddenly that throws in an inconsistent and negative association. They're like, oh, I'm now confused, and maybe they might still go ahead and book an appointment, but there's just that little bit of doubt that's crept in because it's been, quite an unpleasant experience for them. And so when they turn up for the appointment, they're probably expecting to get a similar reaction at the front desk, which is obviously not the experience that we want people to have. So people will create brand associations no matter what you do because they just naturally think and feel things about every experience that they have in their life. So the job of marketing is to try and control which ones they are created and manage and try and reverse negative ones, which is really, really difficult. So it's a marketing manager's worst nightmare to wake up to, some really bad story in the paper, which, generally isn't true. But all these negative associations have been created. And so now it's your job as the marketing manager to try and put out messaging that, corrects that, but it's very hard to undo. And, there are some brands around that, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but they can have one incident, something went really wrong one time, but people just don't forget, it'll always be there. So defining your ideal patient groups. So this is important because, as I mentioned before, you can't be everything to everyone. And often, sometimes, naturally, depending on what sort of health practitioner you are and the services and treatments you provide, that will guide you, very easily to who you're treating. But if you're more general, it's important to think about some of those specific patient groups, and maybe those groups will expand over time, but initially, as you're starting to grow, what groups do you want to focus on the most, so you can really think about what messaging, what communication channels is going to really resonate with those groups. So patient groups can be broad or narrow. When we're thinking about mental health, it could be older men who have depression, young female adults who have experienced trauma, neurodiverse teenagers. And so when you're thinking about these groups, it also tells you about what else do you need to include in your marketing messaging. So older men who have depression, you probably need, messaging around still normalizing it for that group to make sure that it's, as an older man, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to ask for help. And then it's also important to think about who the decision maker is. So if you are looking after children or teenagers, obviously their parents are the decision makers. So it's thinking about what channels and messaging is going to resonate with their parents as the decision makers, rather than often the child or the audience themselves. So same with referrer groups. So who are your main referrer groups? So they can obviously be GP, specialists, allied health organisations, but can there be a subgroup as well? So when I work within the fertility space, the main referrer group are GPs, but often women will still want to see female GPs. So often it's about trying to identify busy female GPs within a practice and going to speak to them, because that they will be seeing a bigger proportion of women who may need fertility assistance compared to maybe an older male GP. And then when you're thinking about your ideal referrer group, similar to patients, what's the best way of getting in front of those referrers, and do they need different approaches? So partnerships. So partnerships is really about connecting with complementary health practitioners, complementary doctors and specialists, to create really a mutually beneficial partnership. So that can often come down to cross referrals. So it can be, just connecting with a complementary practitioner. So it might be, a mental health practitioner, it might be a nutritionist, dietitian, that you can basically work together to go, right, if I have someone who I think needs your help, I'll suggest that you might be right for them. It also enables you to do sort of content creation. So as you would know, content is always a challenging thing to keep creating, having new content on your website and social media. But by having these mutually beneficial partnerships, you can cross-share content, but you can also create content together. So you can go, hey, why don't we do a podcast together? Why don't we do an educational video together? So it just means you're able to create more valuable content. So your tagline. So it's really important in marketing to always remember that to really basically be as simple as possible, and often you're just repeating the same message over and over again, and to the person doing it, to you, think, oh, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. But most of the time people aren't seeing it like you're seeing it, because people are bombarded with information, and most people have very limited brain space to really engage with something, make sense of it, and decide what to do with it. So you need to spell out what you do at every opportunity. And always assume prospective patients and referrers don't know what you do. So make it really easy for them to understand. So your tagline should obviously be aligned with your vision, mission, and desired position. And obviously make sure that you can back it up. So that is a big, obviously, no-no with APRA here in Australia, and obviously similar around the world, is that if you say something as a practitioner, you need to be able to support that. And it enables you to capture who you treat, your tagline should, in one sentence, capture who you treat, what you treat, your expertise and experience, and your approach to patient care. So your approach to patient care is just as important to your qualifications and expertise. So there's been research that has looked at what influences decision making in healthcare, and the research showed that people will always make emotive-based decisions, but they will post-rationalize. So that is, they seem really lovely and approachable, and they generally really care about me and the outcome. And they go, oh yes, and good, they're also highly qualified and expert at what they do. So don't underestimate that warmer messaging about what people can expect from that experience of seeing you. It's just as important, and that should be captured in things like your tagline as well. So here are some examples of taglines. So embracing differences, celebrating diversity, collaborative and inclusive mental health services, enabling our clients to live the most amazing life. So you should very quickly in this sentence have a really good understanding of what this practitioner does and their approach. And you can see, so a nutritionist using science, compassion and a love of food to help you stop dieting and get the results you want. And I won't read out the rest because they're obviously all there. So key messages. So key messages are really an expansion of your tagline. So it's important to think about, if say you only have 5 sentences to explain to a prospective patient what you do, why you're good at what you do, how you can help them, and what type of experience they can expect by seeing you, what would you say? And so I always recommend writing out those 5 sentences, and then that's the foundation copy. So whenever you're, so that goes on your homepage, on your website, that goes on the first page of your brochure. You use that as talking points whenever you're doing a video or educational webinar or something like that. And also the language is really important. So that that's not just about making sure the language is in patient-friendly language, but it's also your voice as well. So it needs to be reflective of who you are as a practitioner. So if you normally speak a bit more casually, then that needs to come across in those 5 sentences. If you tend to be more formal and more serious, then that needs to come across in those 5 sentences as well. So then we get to the visual execution. So that's taking all that foundation work that we've just gone through and making sure that that is basically a look and feel and colors and a logo is created to accurately reflect that. So at one glance, that feeling created is very much aligned and supports all those key messages and that foundation work. So it obviously also needs to align with your area of health and patient groups. So if you're thinking about, if you work predominantly with children, then obviously your colors are going to be a little bit different to say, you predominantly work with older men. And just thinking about that voice as well. So that voice in terms of, whether it's warm and friendly or a bit more serious or passionate, because that's really reflective of who you are as a practitioner in your practice. So I just thought I'd give you a couple of examples. So I won't tell you exactly those taglines and positions that relate to these, just because that's obviously confidential information. But I just wanted to give you couple of examples of taking. So we've done all that brand work, really thought about position, tagline, key messaging, and then we've executed it into a look and feel and logo for the website. So you can see that this has a very different look and feel to say this one, but you can see that the tagline is, strongly present, and then you've got the key messages. So it's really important, so important to do all that foundation work before moving to the design and look and feel phase. And if you're working with a designer or web developer, they will just love you if you've done all that work, because that's that brief that they really need, because they can't get into your head. So they need as much information as possible. So you better take that and create a look and feel that is really aligned and is going to resonate with your brand and your patients and referrers. So your website. So your website has a very important job to do. So it obviously has to accurately communicate your brand, your experience, expertise, approach to patient care. It enables prospective patients to obviously find out about you, get to know you, feel confident that you're the right practitioner for them, and to take the next step and make an inquiry and appointment. So because all your marketing activities are basically driving people to your website. So your website's number one job is to give them the confidence and build your credibility so they feel really comfortable in taking their next step and making an inquiry and booking an appointment. And it's all about reducing the fear. So patients don't want to make the wrong decision. I mean, no one ever wants to make the wrong decision. In some areas of health, that wrong decision could mean that, they don't get the treatment they need. And so, the higher the risk, within the healthcare space that it is, it's scary for people. They have to be comfortable that they are really deciding to see the right practitioner or doctor for them or their loved one. So what should you have on your website? So I always recommend that these are sort of the main key areas that are good to include on your website. So obviously your homepage, where you have tagline, key messages, the about section, which is, an area where you can talk about you and other practitioners that work with you. So that includes your expertise, but also very much your approach to patient care. Obviously your treatments and services. I think it's also really good to have a section which is all about prevention, so things that people can do in their own life to help their health. It really sends a good message that you actually care. You care about their health more holistically rather than just getting them in for an appointment. A blog or latest news section is good because it just enables you to keep adding new content to your website. Obviously when to seek help. So people aren't always necessarily sure when the right time is to seek help. So that information there can really help educate people and help them to know when to take that next step. What they can expect from your first appointment or their first treatment, just breaking down those fears and barriers. So the more people know about what to expect, then the fear is reduced. Take the unknowns away. And then obviously making it really easy for people to make an inquiry or book an appointment. And then, obviously having that privacy policy on your website as well. So search engine optimization. So 6 simple ways to help your website appear on the first page of Google. So Google obviously dominates. It's got 90% market share of search engines. So we really care about Google. SEO is a really complex thing, ever changing, but 6 things that seem pretty constant, at least at the moment, in terms of Google, and are pretty easy for you to do, is just adding content. So Google loves new content, so that's why a blog article can be a really good way of just getting up a new article, so new content on, say, a fortnightly basis, which you can then use and repurpose and share on social media and things like that. Shrink your images before uploading. So load time for a website plays a role in SEO and how Google rates your website. So always make sure your images are low quality. Low quality sounds bad, but low resolution. And that website there, tiny JPEG, if you go there, you can actually upload your image. And it will shrink it, and so you can download it then and upload it to your website really easily. Google likes internal links, so that's where if you have a page on your website where you're talking about something and it makes sense to go, oh, and I've got more information over here, to link it to another page on your website. Often when you're putting up a blog article, it's good to link to another page or another blog article on your site. Uh, links coming to your website are also really good as well. So, but they ideally need to be from websites. Obviously the website has to make sense, but also a reputable website. So if you have a university or the ABC or BBC linking to your website, then Google goes, oh wow, this site must be reputable because this other reputable website is linking to it. Obviously that's not always possible. Often it's not possible. So it's just thinking about maybe 5 relevant other health practitioners, like those complementary partnership practitioners, and you can just cross-link. Ensure your website is mobile friendly. I mean, these days, I can't imagine any agency or web developer is building a website that's not mobile friendly. But Google really punishes you for not having a mobile friendly website. So that's where your website basically responds and shrinks down to work really well on mobile. And if you look at, your website traffic, you'll see that, a good, often like 60% of people these days will be viewing your site on their mobile. And setting up Google My Business. So that also plays a really important role, and Google really likes that. Just because, Google likes Google things, but it makes it easier for people to find and helps boost your site up through the ranks of Google. So the promotion component of the model. So this is where we're talking about marketing activities. So obviously there's lots of different marketing activities you can do. And as I said in the beginning, it's really important when I'm working with practice owners in those earlier days to really think about the activities that are going to fit in with their budgets and resources, but also have the greatest impact in getting them in front of their ideal patients and referrers. So Google Ads and Facebook Ads are probably the 2 key ways that I recommend. And if I'm picking between those 2, I tend to always recommend Google Ads. Just because the difference between Google Ads and Facebook Ads is Google Ads, you're getting in front of people who are proactively searching for someone like you. So they're at a different stage of their journey, if you like, because they're at least thinking about that they might need help from someone like you. Whereas Facebook Ads, you're getting in front of a lot of people who might not even know they need help, or might know they need help but might not be ready. So it plays an awareness and education role as well. And yes, Facebook ads can be really effective. But normally within the health space, and you can do research in terms of how many people are searching for specific practitioners in different locations, mostly because there's so many daily and monthly searches for health practitioners across the span of all different types of health practitioners. I think it makes much more sense most of the time that if you're in those early days of just getting started, Google Ads is the way to go. And then once you're getting good results from Google Ads, you can decide to either increase your Google ad budget or add in some Facebook ads to the mix as well. Obviously social media, relationship direct marketing, which is for referrers, and obviously content. So I'm not going to talk about Facebook ads, but I just thought I'd focus on Google ads. Obviously I can't teach you, unfortunately, to set up a Google ad campaign today, but I'll just talk you through basically how it works and why that can be such an effective campaign. So here are just some fun facts about Google. So 75% of all desktop searches and 92% of mobile searches occur on Google. And there are 3.5 billion Google searches daily. What we also know is that around 75% of people don't go past that first page on Google, which means, as I said earlier, you can have the most amazing website in the world, but if it's sitting on page 3 of Google, it sits there sadly unvisited. So getting your website to appear on page 1, which is, search engine optimization, is an ongoing challenge. Which means, by running Google Ads, suddenly you can get your website on that first page. We also know that about 40 to 50% of all searches result in someone clicking on a Google ad. and 45% of people don't know the difference. So there used to be conversations, a while ago now, that people didn't click on ads because they were ads. Most of the time in marketing, if you're appearing in front of someone and providing value and can assist that person, they don't care that it's advertising or marketing, because they actually just want to get a solution to their problem. And often people say, Facebook ads are annoying and people email spam me. But what you'll notice also is that they're only saying that about things that don't relate to them. If you see an ad that is going to solve a problem, then that's useful. So you don't see that as annoying. So I just did a quick search here in Melbourne. So you can see that when I type in exercise physiology, you can see these ads pop up. So you can see that a lot of exercise physiologists are using Google Ads. And so by doing this, they're actually front and center, versus their website might be, page 1, 2, 3 of Google. So Google Ads, as I said, it enables you to reach people who are already actively searching for something similar to what you offer. So Google Ads is basically a highly sophisticated auction system, where you create your ads and you add in search terms and keywords. So when people are typing in that keyword, your ad appears. So what you initially do is you do research. So there's different platforms around where you can do research in terms of what keywords people are searching for when they're searching for, say, exercise physiologist. So you set up your campaign using those keywords. So when someone types in a keyword or a phrase to Google, your ad pops up and someone goes, oh, that's really relevant to what I'm looking for. They click on your ad, they visit your website, and ultimately we want them to make that inquiry and appointment. So Google Ads is often referred to as a pay-per-click campaign, because you pay for when someone actually clicks and visits your website versus when your ad just appears. So social media. So the key to successful health practitioner marketing is creating valuable and authentic relationships with prospective and current patients and referrers. And so social media plays a really important role in this. So often having a Facebook page is not going to be the answer to all your problems. It's not going to be the biggest driver of inquiries and appointments. It's just not, so that's where Google Ads and Facebook play that role, but it also serves a purpose. I mean, obviously you need a page if you're running Facebook ads, but it also provides a space where you can help build your credibility by having original content, so blog articles that you've linked to, videos of what you do. It can create social proof as well. So that's where, a prospective patient might be talking about what you do on their page. Obviously, you can't have, if someone comments, if someone basically writes a review on your Facebook page, that is still considered a testimonial under APRA. So obviously that's not allowed, but it's when patients are starting to talk and share your Facebook page content, for example, that provides that social proof. But it's also important to make sure that social media is tightly managed. So I always recommend, if you do have other people managing your social media platform for you, just to have a social media policy to make sure you're really clear about what that person can write and post, and if they're responding to a question, how should they respond? Do they always need to check in with you, and that sort of thing. So how do you choose the right social media platform for you? So there's a few things to think about. So is it the right platform for your area of health and patients? So if if you're mainly looking after older people, I guess, is in 80 plus, are they on TikTok? Probably not. And what is realistic for you to manage? So there's no point setting up all these social media platforms and then you just don't have time to manage them. So the ones that I guess I tend to recommend is when we're thinking about patients. So Facebook Facebook business pages are difficult these days because Facebook don't prioritize these pages anymore. And so it's hard to get your content showing up in someone's newsfeed. But they still play a role. There's still sometimes an expectation that you should have one from people if they go searching. It still provides a space for you to, create some quality content and videos and things like that. Facebook groups are exploding at the moment, and as you probably know, and Facebook do prioritize these. So, if you're in a group and that group posts content, that you would have noticed that you see that content pop up. The issue when we're thinking about Facebook groups in healthcare is that I rarely recommend that it's the right thing to do, but it also depends on your area of health. So they're great because they create a community of people going through similar experiences, but that can also create a space where you've got people going through something really difficult. They have conversations with each other. They're expecting advice, a diagnosis, and things that you obviously can't give in that space. Sometimes they start advising each other about what they should do. But sometimes it can work well. So sometimes in mental health, I think there's too much risk. Where in other situations like physio, exercise physiology, it could be a space where you can create, ongoing live videos of exercises people can do at home, where you think there's an opportunity to create that community and that value with minimal risk. And then obviously there's Instagram and TikTok. TikTok's obviously exploding. A lot of health practitioners are using it really effectively these days. It's just one of those things that you have to feel comfortable. So there's no point pushing yourself into something, especially initially, if you're just like, this is not me. So if you feel uncomfortable about creating lots of videos, then, it's probably not the right thing for you. Maybe it is in the future. And then when we think about referrers, so LinkedIn is exploding at the moment. It's got great organic reach with content at the moment. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in more detail, but it's a great way for you to connect with potential referrers and build that relationship on that platform rather than thinking about having to see them face to face. Facebook groups as well could be a space depending on what area of health you're in, to bring referrers together, to have conversations, more clinical obviously conversations, and create that community within a Facebook group. And Twitter as well. Twitter can work really well depending on what space you're in. So I have a not-for-profit client in emergency medicine, and that works really well because emergency medicine doctors just seem to be on Twitter, so it's just a great way of sharing lots of content and resources. So relationship and direct marketing. So that's where we want to connect with your prospective and current referrers, which is really, really difficult. When I was back in the corporate world, I had a big team of sales reps that would go and, do the typical book an appointment with the GP, have a lunch, take sandwiches and that sort of thing. And yes, that, it did work. It's certainly hard work, and it's impossible, obviously, as a new practice owner, because you're obviously not going to take, makes no sense for you to dedicate, 3 days a week to doing that. So what I tend to recommend doing is connecting with your referrers sort of backwards. So if you see, you're doing Google Ads, patients are coming in, they're clicking on Google Ads, they're booking appointments, so you're getting new patients that way. And then after you see that patient and you've got their referrer doctor details, then you contact that referrer. Just letting you know, I just saw patient X, blah, blah, blah. So you're providing a really good service. At the same time, you're also making them aware of what you do. And, referrers they also want to make the right decision. So if one of their patients has seen you, they've had a really good experience, you've connected with that referrer, then they're going to be more likely, if they see another patient that has similar issues, to refer to you. This is not possible forever as you get really busy, but I think initially it can be a great way to, either call or email to get that person aware of who you are and what you can do for their patients. And then potentially even taking it a step further. So if you're in a space where you have a smaller number of referrers, but you're getting a bigger number of referrals from them, then you can also offer, when you have that call, to have, just organize a Zoom chat, and then you can have a bit more in-depth conversation about what you do and how you can assist them. And then also, as I mentioned, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has a paid platform component, which is called Sales Navigator. You don't need it, but it does enable you to really identify different types of doctors or practitioners in different locations, years of experience. So I always recommend this as well. So it's where you basically are searching for your ideal referrer and connecting with them. So it's you just send a connection request, obviously, engage, send them some useful resources, and then just connect back with them. So you just have set up a process where you're like, in every 3 to 4 weeks, you're like, hey, I've just created this new resource, this new training video, just wanted to send it to you. Just to keep you front and center in their mind, at the same time that you're posting valuable content on your profile as well. So content, as I mentioned, it can be a really challenging thing to continue to create that relevant, valuable content, but it's so important in building your credibility, awareness of who you are and what you do, and increasing the effectiveness of your marketing activities. So increasing awareness, creating brand associations, positioning you in the market against competitors, increasing prospective and current patient engagement, and then obviously increasing your new patient appointments and increasing patient retention. So ideally, content should be new content shared often. Is consistent and is aligned to and supports your brand. Video content plays a really important role. And, if you feel comfortable creating video content, it can be a great way to not only provide valuable educational material, but also allow people to get to know you a bit better, especially, in that online social media space. And my biggest thing is, don't worry about it being perfect. The most important thing is that it's real and genuine and authentic. And yes, you obviously want it to be professional, but doesn't mean that it has to be super polished. And just focus on building those personal relationships and trust. So I always suggest creating a content calendar. So you've basically got a 6 to 12 month content calendar and populating sort of 3 months at a time, where I also recommend, sort of blocking out a day every 3 to 4 weeks, where that day, all you're doing is creating content. So instead of it sort of always hanging over your head, that on Monday, every 3 weeks on a Monday, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write 5 blog articles, and I'm going to create some short videos about them, some social media posts, so that content is ready to go, and so you don't have to think about it again until 3 or 4 weeks time. And so just making sure that you're repurposing content as much as you can. So that's where a blog article can be sort of the basis, and then from that you can add it to your website, Facebook post, Instagram post, create a video, create a podcast. You can go into your newsletter if you have one, even create an infographic. So processes. So processes are basically the systems and processes and measurement that sit around your foundation work and your marketing activities. And as I mentioned in the beginning, really important to make sure that you're on the right track and moving people through that inquiry process. So inquiry management. So when we're thinking about inquiry management, it's really that, conversion of online or phone calls into new patient appointments. And obviously sometimes people will be able to book online, but often in different health spaces, people will still want to make that initial inquiry, ask a few questions before deciding to book an appointment for the first time. So investing time and resources into inquiry conversion is equally important as creating marketing activities, because as I said to begin with, there's no point. You've done all this amazing work with your marketing and brand foundations. You've created all these marketing activities. You're getting website traffic, new inquiries, and you're not doing anything with them. So it's really important to set up processes where you're responding to them within the right time frame, with the right messaging, and help moving those people across. So what are some key components of successful inquiry conversion? So obviously attracting the right prospective patient through marketing activities. So that's where we talk about quality leads. So there's no point getting people to your website and to make an inquiry if they're just not the right fit for what you do. Timeliness. So we really want to make sure that people are responded to quickly, because as I also mentioned, if people are calling and making an inquiry with you, they are no doubt doing it with other similar practitioners. So like sometimes the only thing that makes a difference is that you get back to them quicker than someone else did. So I always say if someone makes an online inquiry or phone call, you need to get back to them that day. Unless it's on a Friday, and then the Monday makes sense. So making sure that they get an amazing customer service and communication. And so if you've got someone helping you with this, developing a process and drafting some phone scripts and emails. So it doesn't have to be word for word script, because it needs to sound obviously authentic and genuine, but giving people guidance about what they need to be saying to people. And also following up. So as I mentioned, following up is really important. So sometimes you can play phone tag on the phone. So sometimes even just a text, hey, just trying to give you a call today. Let me know when it's a good time to call back. If someone's made an online inquiry, then after you respond, if you haven't heard back in a week's time, then have a process in place where today you need to send a follow-up email. Hey, just checking in. Did you have any further questions? And you will see a definite increase in people moving through. And staying in control of the communication. So as soon as you say, hope this helps, you get back to me if you decide you want an appointment, you've lost control of that communication. So always flip it around. So you're ending an email or conversation with, yep, okay, let me know, I hope this helps. Let me know if you've got any questions. I will touch base with you and see how things are going in a week's time. So then it makes sense that, they do hear from you again. And yeah, just training staff, making sure that if you've got people helping you, that, you've got a process and messaging set up for them to follow. And so measurement and tracking. So obviously we want to know whether your marketing activities are working. So the best indicators to look at of which will tell you whether your practice is growing or about to grow is quality website traffic. So making sure that you've got something like Google Analytics set up to make sure that you're seeing how many visitors are coming to your website, and those new visitors are increasing month on month. That you're getting a consistent increase in phone and online prospective patient inquiries, and that they are from people who are, sometimes you'll always get people that just aren't the right fit because they don't read your website properly or whatever. But overall, you want to see an increase in inquiries, but inquiries from people who are at least close-ish to the right fit for what you do. And then to see that maintenance, or at least an increase in conversion rate of inquiry into new patient appointment. And over time, if you're very new at this, over time you'll get to learn about what connects better with your types of patients. What are the things that you say that tend to help encourage people moving along that process more than others. Obviously an increase in referrals, increase in new patient appointments, and then repeat appointments. So if you know that, you know, typically someone sees you for a 6-month period, but everyone that you see is dropping out after 2 months, then that should flag that something's going on, and it's worth investigating. And then, you know, obviously, you know, you only want to keep people around for as long as they need your help. But if they're dropping out typically sooner than they should, then there's something going on, and it's good to work out why. So I hope that was useful. That was a lot of information to go through. I know I just spoke very quickly, but obviously you'll get this handout, and I've got a marketing for health practitioners group that you're welcome to join. I provide, you know, free ongoing training in that. You can also, you know, ask me any questions through the group, or just contact me directly. And yeah, all the best with growing your practice.